From Chicago, it's Chris Sells His Soul. I'm your host, Chris Bogue, and this is my show where I have conversations with cool people who will help you work more creatively. Today, my guest is Alex Sheridan. Alex, please say hello and tell my audience where they can find you.
What's up, Chris? I'm excited to be here, man. Appreciate you having me. Local Chicago native, so that's always fun.
Right.
We should have done this in person. Dude, we should have done it in person.
Ah,
My name is Alex. I'm the founder of Impacts Marketing. We help companies build trust and attract their dream customers through video content.
Excellent. Well, welcome to the show. Yes, fellow Chicagoan here, fellow video guy. I'm so
Yeah.
excited to have Alex here, and I'm so excited to have today's sponsor. That is Allego up here. So, Allego is an all in one solution for your sales enablement team. It's a way to combine conversational intelligence and internal training materials. And everything you need to make sure that you're spreading out the best practices from your team and using that to train your reps. So we're going to hear from them in the middle of the segment today. But also, I should probably introduce myself. So my name is Chris Bogue. This is Chris Sells His Soul. And yeah, I am a content creator and writer and comedian and coach living in Chicago. So if you want to find me, you can find me on LinkedIn. Just look up Chris Bogue. You can also find my courses and my products at chrisbogue.io. And before Alex and I start talking about our topic today, I want to hear from you in the comments. So if you're watching this live, if you're on LinkedIn, James, Dean, Kevin, Kelsey, Jeffrey, hello, everybody. Welcome. If you are here today, jump in the comments, say hello. Alex and I do not know you're here if you don't comment. So join in, tell us where you're watching from, and ask any questions you have. You know, Alex, he's a master of video content. He helps businesses create effective video content so they can be out there promoting themselves all the time. So if you're curious about video content or sales or LinkedIn or anything, throw your comments in, and Alex and I will try to answer them sometime during the show. So welcome, everybody. And it's time for our first topic. So, Alex, I brought you on to talk about a very specific thing today, and that's edutainment. So, why don't we just start? Why don't you just give the audience your definition of what edutainment is?
Well, very simply, it's just combining an educational or an inspiring message with something that's entertaining. So, and you can do that a lot of different ways. Like I posted about this today, but people oftentimes think that it's like, oh my gosh, I got to do something so crazy entertaining. I got to do the skip videos. I got to do the rap battles. I got to do this. And in reality, that's one level to it, right? But it could be the way you shoot and deliver your message. I shot my video that I posted today from a drone. And so there are some interesting angles and things like that. It could be you telling a story in a very entertaining way, right? There's a ton of different kind of ways, the scenery that you're in, you change things up. Like there's a ton of different ways to make your content more entertaining. And the reason that this works so well is because if you think about the human psychology, it's storytelling, it's hooking an audience in and making them want to see how something plays out or something ends. It's emotional driven as opposed to just information and fact driven. So it allows you to connect with an audience and really tell a story or deliver a message in an entertaining way, which means they're more likely to consume it all the way through. And if they're consuming all your content all the way through, well, then you're much more likely to convert that content into customers and business.
Yeah, I like how you said there too. It doesn't have to be like a big production, and this is an interesting line, and I actually really wanted to have you on the show too, because this is a dilemma I struggle with as an entrepreneur, right? I make two types of content. Sometimes it's very simple, sometimes it's very practical, sometimes I'm helping solve a little problem. And then sometimes it's crazy and absurd, and I bring Alex Sheridan in to do a rap battle with Bagman, And for me, it's like I'm always just starting with like, what is the message that I
Hmm.
want to like, what's the one thing I want to land with my audience? What's the one point I want to get across to them? Maybe it's one feeling, right? Maybe I want them to feel something by the end of the video, but I always have a goal. And the reason why there's comedy in my stuff is because I was a sketch comedian for 15 years, you know?
Right, right,
If
right.
I had no comedy in there, it wouldn't work because it wouldn't really be who I am. You know, it's
Yes.
not that I am, the funniest comedian ever, whatever. I'm trying to just be myself, and that's part of me, and I think there's a lot of misconceptions there because they'll see the stuff companies are doing on LinkedIn. Well, they'll have very funny people, very entertaining people, and people get psyched out because they don't think they can do that. But my whole thing is
Mhm.
boring content is actually not boring if the subject matter is important to you. Maybe
Right.
you think insurance is boring, but if that's your livelihood, it's actually probably pretty interesting to you. So, how do you get
Mhm.
over this hump with people when they're like, I don't have anything to say, or maybe they tell you my audience is not video people. I hear that one all. Well, my prospects are too serious. They don't watch videos
Mm.
about content. What do you say to somebody like that?
Man, so you hit on a lot of good points there. So first and foremost, I do believe the same philosophy that you believe, which is message first, delivery second. In most cases, there's sometimes where the delivery inspires me to find a message to tie into it. Example, I watched the new Top Gun movie. I'm like, I got to make a video that ties into my message with Top Gun. Like,
Yeah.
but typically, but before I would really start writing a script or putting the video together, I am thinking about the message. Well, how do I want to make people feel? What is the one point I want to convey? What's the perspective that I want to shift with my audience or customer? That always comes first. Second point you made was about the personality. I think that's so important, right? People get on here like, oh, Chris is so engaging. Alex does good videos. I could do it like them. It's like, probably not. It's probably not going to work, right? So you leveraged humor and your acting and things like that because that was you and that was your background and it works. So test and try different things, but don't necessarily try to be someone else. Figure out what's unique to you because everyone does have a little bit of a different personality. And your uniqueness in the personality, if you're quirky or funny or this, or you tell a good story, that's what the audience wants to see. And that's what resonates most with people because it's just truly who you are. And then you tie that good message to it. Um, what was your question? Where do people get hung up on? I wanted to make
Yeah,
sure I said
just
those
like
2 points
people,
first.
I guess it's like people tell themselves that either I'm not the type of person who can do this. They either say I'm
Yeah.
not a video person. Maybe that works for you, Alex Sheridan. Maybe you can go out there and be Mr. Confident on video, but I can't do that. Or they say, you know what, my audience doesn't care about this. We've done cold calling and cold emailing all our lives. It's working pretty well. We don't have enough time to do something like this. We don't have enough resources to do
Yeah.
video content. This is a nice to have, but not a need to have. Is what
Yeah,
I
I
hear.
mean, the one thing I'll say about video consumption is, like, if you look at all of the data, every single report and research and data that you can show on this, customers are 80% through the buying cycle by the time they talk to a salesperson or a person. They are now consuming double the online video content that they were from 4 years ago. It went from about 10 hours a week to now about almost 20. So where in the where in the world are they getting this information that their customers somehow miraculously don't like video content? I bet they have Netflix. I bet they listen to watch the podcast. I bet they got a Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or LinkedIn account. You bet they've watched some videos on YouTube. Like, you're not people are just making assumptions about what they think instead of actually looking in the marketplace and figuring out what's actually happening. And what's happening is more and more people are consuming video content. More prospects are getting educated before they want to talk to somebody. So your cold emails and outreach and stuff is only going to go so far, because what if they run into somebody on LinkedIn that's been educated in the past 3 months on how to set up a strategy, and now they're in the instant call and you cold calling didn't even get through? So it's like the market's changing, the landscape is changing, business is changing, and you're either going to evolve with it or you're not. In terms of the concern of like, oh, maybe I'm not good on video. I love when people are like, Alex, I don't think I'm good on video. I'm like, really? How many videos have you made? 3. And I'm like, so how would you be good on video? Like,
Yes, this
like, like,
this is
like
it.
that's impossible, right? Like, you can't. It's a skill, guys. It's not something you pick up and you're miraculous at. My first videos were not good, right? They were nothing like they are
Yeah.
today.
This is what I think it is too. I actually think when they say our people aren't video people, what they mean is they tried a few videos, they got poor results, so they gave up.
Right.
You know,
Right. You're
and
telling
and
me if
I
I
I
followed you around at a conference and you were talking to people and I followed you around with my smartphone and I got footage of you, I mic'd you up and got footage of you, that somehow you would just completely not be able to communicate anymore? No way. No way. We're humans. We all communicate, right? It's in people's head. And the fact that I haven't created social media videos before is intimidating, which I understand. But most of the time, I've seen people that, oh, I'm not good on video, be really good at video once they got going and they had a strategy and they put in the reps. In worst case scenario, then fine, do some picture posts, get some text posts out there, do some audio, start a podcast. There are other things that you can do outside of video. It's just video scales so well. And it's like the number one thing that people consume nowadays. So it's like, man, it sucks to pass that up if you're gonna.
Well, yeah, I guess this is my question for you then, because again, it's I love talking to somebody who has some overlap professionally with what they do. And I always say, well, one, I tell sales leaders, I'm like, okay, maybe you're great at cold calling. Were you great at cold calling the first 3 weeks you were doing it? Or did that take some practice and some coaching, and maybe not until your third and fourth sales role did you really master that? So why are you assuming you're going to be a video star overnight? You just haven't put in the work. But the other thing I tell them too, I go, the difference between what I'm doing and what most sales reps are doing is I have a different relationship with the camera. I
Right.
talk to the camera like it's my friend. I talk to
Right.
the camera like it's a person sitting in the room with me and I'm sharing something special with it. And people treat it like they're on this big stage, like they're up here, the audience is down there, there's a sea of 1,000 people, and it's like, I'm the important talking person, and
Yeah.
I'm like, you gotta get on the same level. So how do you help people get more comfortable? Like, let's say you get you start working with a person like that, they're not used to it. How do you get
Dude,
them to find their tone on
I'll give,
camera?
I'll give you the one of the best ways to get over the fear of being on camera and not
Mhm.
sounding natural is to do exactly what we're doing now. Get somebody that you feel pretty comfortable with that wants to also maybe make some video, or it's a colleague or it's a customer, whatever it might be, or it's a friend, it doesn't matter. And just pick like 5 to 10 key topics that you're excited to talk about. And you're going to hit record and you're going to talk to the person and just pretend you're in real life, right? It's like, hey, me and Chris are talking about video today, right? I'm not thinking about, okay, I gotta say something. There's nobody else around. If I mess up, I can stop it. No, this is just live. Like we're just two humans having a conversation. That's the best way to start, I think, personally. I think making it as natural as possible to a normal human conversation is a pretty good way to start versus trying to script something amazing out by yourself. Because if I record a 10-minute video of the same topics that we're talking about now versus me and you just talking about it naturally, it's way easier this way for me. And I've done 1,000 videos versus
Yeah.
having to 10 minutes. Now I just talk about the same topics. It's like, dude, I'm fumbling a little bit. I'm like overthinking it. I got to stop it. I got to, like this. So I would say create some natural conversations. That's why I think podcasts are so good. Live events are so good. Things like this are so good.
Yeah, and as a coach, I have found that 99% of the time, and I'm sure you've had this too, somebody will send me a video or they'll submit a video to me, and I'm like, hey, the video is like 4 minutes long. And I'm like, this little chunk here, this little 15-second thing you do 3 minutes in is so powerful. That could be the entire video. We could literally just chop off this exposition. Or like, it's funny today. I was coaching someone literally right before this meeting, right? And like, she's on a team. I'm coaching multiple content creators. There's one guy on the team. He's very successful. He's very funny. He gets a lot of attention. He gets a lot of inbound stuff because he's funny, and I know that's powerful. And she's doing a show about ADHD, and she was thrown off because somebody DM'd her being like, I love your stuff. It's amazing. It's my favorite. And she's like, well, it can't actually be their favorite because this other guy's stuff. I'm like, no, no, no. Just believe them. You're talking about something that's real to them. And we were talking, she was coming up with a video about like, lateness, how people with ADHD are late sometimes, what that's like to other people if you're late to them. It was a really powerful idea. It was a 30-second one. And then I'm like, okay, why don't we do this? How about you start the video, you do that, but you start the video off camera, and then you come into the shot 1 second later and be like, apologize, I know I'm late. Here's the thing about lateness. That's such a hook. That's such a, like, you come in 1 second late and it's action. You pull the audience into the middle of it. But we didn't sit there thinking like, oh, what's the most entertaining hook we can come up with? First, we got our message. We got our point of view. What do you want to convey to the audience? And then it was like, okay,
Hmm.
now that we have a 30-second idea, how can we do something in that first 3 seconds that's going to grab them? And
Right.
that's such an easier thing to find out when you know what your message is. And most importantly, you know who your audience is. You know who you want to receive the message.
Right. And Chris, like one thing I'll say about that in terms of people not thinking that, oh, my topic's not as interesting as Sally because Sally's super entertaining and funny. Think about the shows that people watch. People watch documentaries that are ultra serious and like real life footage. Then people watch show like Breaking Bad, where it's super dramatic and high intense. And then people watch shows like How I Met Your Mother, where it's funny and silly and it's a 25-minute, sitcom. And so it's like there's all types of, and then people watch sporting events. And guess what? Watching football to one person is the greatest entertainment ever. Watching football to another person, one house down, is the most boring thing they could ever possibly do. So it's like, don't pigeonhole yourself and put yourself in a box and say, just because I'm talking about this thing, it's not as entertaining or fun or this. That doesn't matter. Like if you're excited to talk about it and you're passionate to talk about it and it matters to that audience and to the people you're trying to reach, that's good content. So don't overthink
Yeah.
it from that standpoint either.
Well, and it's real too. It's like some podcasts are just people sitting around babbling on about whatever, and they've got a million followers, and it's like
Yeah.
and this is the line I tell everybody over and over and over again. I say this to literally every single person who pays me. I go, I don't know what good content is. You don't know what good content is. The audience is going to reveal that to us. Your job isn't to go out there to say the most important, most influential thing ever. You're going to go start talking about a collection of topics that you're knowledgeable about. And as they land with the audience, we're going to give them more of that. And soon you start to see, oh, this point of view, this structure, this topic, whatever it is, whenever I go talk about that, the audience responds to it. And then it's just a question of like,
Right.
how can we give them more of that? How can we explore that from different topics?
Exactly, man.
And it gets easier and
I've
easier.
I've had people like, companies will call me like, we want to do this like fancy video series. And I'm like, why a video series right off the bat? Like, how do you know the audience is even going to resonate with it? And oftentimes it doesn't. So it's like, for me, I've done a ton of really successful video series, like LinkedIn versus TikTok, how companies think content works, rap battle, a ton of different stuff. But what I did is I tested one out and I let the audience judge it and decide if it was good content. And once I said, holy cow, like Kelsey mentioned, she first saw my rap battle, which was cool. Thanks, Kelsey.
Ooh,
But yeah, and now I'm back in her feed. Thank God. It's weird how you disappear sometimes. But that was a signal to me, Chris, when I did my first rap battle, which I think was early 2020 on LinkedIn, which was weird for LinkedIn then. And I saw how much it resonated because it did have a good message and it was very entertaining, even though I look back now and I'm like, it was kind of shitty, but that hit. And then I was like, man, I should do more of these. And I did more of them. And then I found other things that worked and I did more of them. So the series and the content gets better and more quality once you put it out there, to your point, and you figure out how the audience reacts.
yeah. Again, I'm so glad you're saying this because I think there's a misconception that it's backwards. I think people see me with the sketch comedy and they think, oh, this is just a guy who started doing sketch comedy and the audience showed up because they like the sketch comedy. I was doing a lot less comedy in the beginning. I was pretty much just doing talking head stuff about sales. I would mention my improv background a little bit, but I would have these moments where I cut away to a different character on a phone or something.
Right.
And one thing I recommend, especially if you're a solo content creator, especially if you're an entrepreneur, you need to ask for feedback. And that was something I did a lot when I was starting out. I asked for all types of feedback from people on LinkedIn, from fellow content creators, from executives, from SDRs, AEs, family members, filmmakers, people from I sent my stuff to everybody. And everybody told me the same thing. When you cut
Mm,
away to that guy on the phone, that was funny. I liked that
yeah.
part, and it was like,
Yeah.
all right, I'll just adjust a little bit more of that in here, but it was like, I didn't start putting in a costume budget and buying rap beats and stock footage and stuff until I found something that I knew landed with my audience, and then it became very
Chris,
easy. Just give him a couple vague men bits, give him a couple whatever, and it's like, okay, I found my
dude,
vibe.
it goes back to assumptions. Stop making assumptions and start actually digging into what actually works. I know you think this is going to be cool, and I know you think video doesn't work, and I know you think you're not good on camera. Let's actually find out. Let's figure it out. Like, let's search for the truth.
Yeah, no, and this is a great point that Nathan makes here that like I tell people all the time. And like Alex, you even said this just a couple minutes ago. You're like, hey, I look back on that video and it was kind of cringe, it's kind of shitty.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, you know what? Your audience disagrees with you.
Yeah,
Sometimes
exactly.
people go out there and say, I'm boring, I'm not attractive enough, I'm not interesting enough, I'm not
Yep.
experienced enough. Well, your audience doesn't think that, and
Right, right.
um,
And you see it
people
as
see.
the artist. or the creator, you see your content so differently than everyone else. Like you
Yes.
can't judge, you don't see it the same way the audience does, which is why you need the audience to give you the feedback, right?
Yeah.
I can think it's not good or good, but the audience is going to tell me what it really is.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the end is like, it'll be frustrating. And you probably know this. Sometimes the video you work so hard on bombs. And the
Yeah.
one you kind of just half-heartedly through, be like, I need something. I'm just gonna put this. That blows up, and you're like, "That's what
Yeah.
you want? That took 15
Yeah.
seconds. What about my masterpiece yesterday
Yep.
that I spent 6 hours editing?" It doesn't. They don't care how much work you put into it. They just care whether or not it
Mhm.
resonated with them.
Yep. That's it.
All right. Well, this is
That's it.
fascinating. I think this is a great segment or a great segue into our next segment. So, Alex, you ready to do a little gimme gimme?
Let's do it.
All right. So yeah, audience here. We're coming up onto the second segment of the show, which is called "Gimme Gimme." So there's a little misconnection or misconception. People have the wrong idea about LinkedIn. People tell you LinkedIn is just for making friends, adding value, having a good time, and actually LinkedIn was designed to make money. So it's designed as a place where people could network, get a good job, and every once in a while, my guest and I like to take a moment. I like to pop into character and just be direct with my audience about exactly what it is we want from them. So, Alex, are you ready for Gimme Gimme?
Yeah, I just thought of a random. I'm gonna get into character too a little bit.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. I'm gonna do a Jocko. I'm gonna do my Jocko character.
Hello, this is Boss Bogue here for another episode of Gimme Gimme, the part of my show where I ask you for money. Firstly, today our show is brought to you by Allego. They're right up there. If you are in the market right now for a solution like Chorus or Gong, you should just go with Allego instead because it's much better. Allego simplifies your entire enablement tech stack, and that includes your LMS, your content management, and conversational intelligence. So you could take the data from the people on your sales team who are actually making money and quickly spread that training to the other members of the team. I've seen your Salesforce setups out there, B2B America. They're terrible. You can't rely on your sales reps to go actually finish your lesson lead programs. You need a solution where they don't need to go click around into a million tabs. They can get the best conversational intelligence from the phone, from the meetings delivered to them based on where they're at in their pipeline. And that's Allego. So go to allego.com, check them out. DM me if you have any questions or want to set up a demo. And Alex, now's your chance to share with my audience what you want from them.
Your video content didn't perform. Good. You spent 6 hours editing a video that got 2 likes on LinkedIn. Good. You've only posted 3 videos, but you think you should be a video expert. Good. Why is this good? Because you're going to come to Impacts Marketing and we're going to solve all those freaking problems for you because we're going to help you create the best goddamn videos you've ever seen. Call us now.
Folks, that is not an exaggeration, okay? Alex is not engaging in any hyperbole out there. It is not easy to get started with video content, right? It takes everybody too long, no matter how good you are. What you need is somebody who can help you get the words out, and then most importantly, turn it into a simple, professional video format that you can spread out there on whatever social media platforms you need. So absolutely, go to Impacts. Alex, how do you spell that website? Where do they go if they want to sign up?
IMPAXS. It's good.
Exactly. So go check out Alex's stuff. He's amazing. Follow him on LinkedIn. And while you're at it, you might as well check out my stuff too. So I'm out here. I coach mercifully short video content. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're a content marketer, if you want to get out there on camera, you don't know how to get confident, you don't know how to find your voice, you don't know how to be natural out there and say things that are going to be relevant to your brand, I can help with that. I'm actually launching a new cohort coming up in April. I'm going to have 2 cohorts, one for video content and one for video sales prospecting. And they're at 3 different levels. So there's a gold, silver, and bronze level. Gold means you're going to get one-on-one coaching with me. Silver means you're going to be part of my cohort. So you're going to learn in a group. We're going to have weekly assignments, weekly lessons. We're going to hold each other accountable and give each other feedback. And then there's a bronze level. It's only going to be the smallest amount. If you want to follow along but don't actually want the hands-on coaching, you'll have access to all our calls, all our training, and it's a good time. So check out the cohort. If you're interested in coaching for your team or for your business, shoot me a DM. And Alex, do you have anything else?
That's it, Chris.
Excellent. Well, not me. I'm going to plug one more thing. I got a course. All right. If you're an SDR, if you're an AE, if you're a sales leader and you want to get out there on video, you're probably doing it badly. Okay. I've seen the videos that your sales team sends out, right? They're garbage. I don't want to offend you, but they're garbage. All right. They're too long. They're too awkward. They're not strategic enough. So, check out my course. It's the complete guide to selling on video. You're about to watch an infomercial now. I'm going to give one more plug for Lego because they're amazing and they sponsored this episode. Iggy, roll the tape. This has been Gimme Gimme.
Hello?
Is this Mr. Sherber?
It sure is. What can I help you with, brother?
Hello. You were not expecting this call. Do you have 17 seconds to
Hang
learn
on a
about
second.
mercifully short?
Is this a cold call?
I don't know.
You. Never call this number again.
Oh no! Another unsuccessful cold call. You probably don't have time to fuck off.
I got a quota to hit.
Are you spending hours every week cold calling and cold emailing but not seeing results?
There's gotta be a better way.
Introducing the complete guide to selling on video. Whether you're new to sales or a President's Club member, this fast and fun course will teach you to efficiently create short, customized videos that get results. The complete guide to selling on video is not sold in stores. Visit chrisbogue.io and use promo code GimmeGimme to take $50 off while supplies last. Don't delay. Get noticed today.
And we're back. So,
That's good.
thank you. Shut up and take my money. All right, I will.
I love it.
Thank you. Yeah, well, that's actually a great segment to our next topic because I know a lot of people are getting into video content this year. Everybody has an HD camera in their pocket now, which means the barriers to entry are lower than ever. But yeah, a lot of people don't know how to get started and they don't know how to find the right voice. So clearly I'm walking kind of a tricky tightrope there. That video was equal parts absurd entertainment and also just product information about like who my stuff is for and how to buy it and where to buy it and how much it costs. Obviously I was not doing stuff like that right out the gate, but Alex, can you tell me a little bit about the balance and how you balance your serious content and your entertainment? And like, what was the road to get there? What did your content look like when you started in terms of that mix versus where it's at now?
It's funny, man. Like what you can see if you go back and watch my videos from like 2019 to early 2020, I dabbled in edutainment. Like I'd start a video off with something kind of funny and then I'd get to a message. And then you see me start to do a little bit more. And then I create a story and then I have another character and then there's a skit and then there's a rap battle. And like it evolved over time. And I think the reason I bring that up is because you don't need to figure out, you're like, oh my gosh, like you're sitting here listening to me and you right now, and you're like, what is my thing? Like, what is my thing? You don't need to necessarily on camera, you don't need to necessarily have everything figured out right this second. The most important part is you find your message. What do you want to talk about and who cares? And why are you talking about it in the first place? What value do you want to bring to the audience in the social media sites or wherever you're sharing your message? And then start testing and trying different things that work for your personality. If you're a little bit quirky or a little bit, you've got a sense of humor, or maybe you love the outdoors. So you start testing like videos and you're going for a walk and you're doing some cool shit outdoors. Like you got to find ways to kind of let your personality shine. I wouldn't even say it's like you got to figure it out. It's already here. It's a question of when you start to create the content, you start to pull pieces out from yourself that are already in there. I'm not putting Chris and trying to put Chris in Susan because that's not going to work. And I wouldn't try to put Susan into Chris because that's not going to work. I'm going to start crafting these videos and talking about things that I'm excited to talk about and just start plucking things out that are naturally in me anyways. That would be my best piece of advice.
Yeah, this is why I recommend, obviously I'm a coach, so I want everybody to do my cohort. Kevin said cohort 1 was awesome. Kevin was awesome. He was another person who, it's the same thing I found in the cohort, which is everybody shows up, everybody starts making their professional content. And then 45 seconds into the video, they have this little human moment where their personality shines.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's you. That's the real part of you. Let's see if we can get that version of you out there, you know? And again, it's like I'm a goofy white guy who watched a lot of Conan O'Brien growing up, so that's what my content looks like. That's not everybody's favorite. Not everybody
Right.
wants more goofy bearded white guys in their phone, and that's fine. You know, I've worked with people. There's a woman I early on I was working with. She was like a consultant in healthcare. You know, she was in her 50s, and it's like, hey, you are a woman who started a business, you know? So that is one thing. If you're up here talking about starting a business, talking about like, people are going to just recognize that you are a successful woman who has accomplished things. You were talking about something you know about. That's credible. You know, you're also a mother, you know, that's a real part of you, you know? And if you go out there talking about what it's like to run a business and also to be in charge of a family, there's so many people that are gonna relate. That's not something I could talk about. I'm not doing content
Right.
about that because that's not who I am. But someone out there who is a working mother in sales or doing consulting or whatever would look at that message and say, "You know what? This woman seems like she gets me." You know, I think this woman seems like she has something to say, and that's what happens when you lean into yourself. You stop trying to be someone else. You're like, okay, there's this
Exactly.
part of me that's kind of goofy, or even part of me that's kind of serious. You know, Kevin, who chimed in earlier, he was in my cohort. Kevin is like a real classic looking guy. He's like a kind of like a Ron Swanson type, you know, where he's got this kind of like deadpan delivery. And I'm like, that's so powerful. Sometimes you want someone who's just like a confident, old school kind of a guy giving it to you straight, you know, and
Yeah.
that can be very funny. And it's like you don't have to try to be someone else. There's so many gifts already there in your personality that you can offer to the audience.
Yeah, man, I've met people that like literally were awkward on camera, but because they were had that and just in real life too, but because they had that awkwardness, it was like attractive to watch. It was like, "Ah, you're making me want to watch because it's like it's so un what you would think someone would do on camera, right?" And so I think, yeah, you have to leverage your personality. And if you think about, we kind of talked about this earlier, but think about all the content that you consume, whether it's books, TV shows, content creators from TikTok, LinkedIn, wherever. There's probably some creators in broadcast that make you smile and laugh. There's some that make you cry. There's some that you're like, wow, this is so good. I'm learning so much. I'm becoming a better person while I'm consuming this. That's the variety. That's the complexity of content. So don't think like you got to fit in because we're being kind of fun and doing some skit shit here that you got to like, that's got to be your thing. Not at all. You could be the person that like puts out content that inspires somebody to change their life. So it's like
Yeah.
just again, leverage, pull the things out from within you instead of trying to find things and put them in because that's never going to work.
Well, I also say too, you know, especially like as I'm working with this, like cohorts of people, I'm like consulting with companies to like work with teams of content creators. I'm like, you know, you each have a different voice. Go take a critical look at the stuff you spend your time listening to. You know, if you're not out there watching old Kids in the Hall sketches all the time like me, you know, maybe it's a podcast you listen to. Maybe you listen to educational podcasts on NPR, you know. What do you get out of that? Why do you
Right.
like that? What shows do you listen to? You can incorporate some of that into your style, you know? Maybe you like it because they go, you know, really in depth on kind of a niche topic. You could be that person, you know? Or oftentimes I say, you know, you can come to the audience as a student. And this is also what I did do with a lot of content creators. My first assignment is always about their audience. So I go, you know what? You don't need to show up as a person who has all the answers. You could show up as a person who's like, hey, network, I got a question for you. I'm trying to figure out this. It's really like just killing me. I can't figure out one way or another. Please weigh in with your thoughts about which of these is most important. And it's
Hmm.
like when you start with a question, the audience gives you an answer. And now you can turn on the video and be like, hey, I asked a question on LinkedIn the other week. I was blown away that overwhelmingly everybody chose this thing.
Yep.
And that's why I'm making a video about it. And now it's not, you didn't have to come up with something that's real. And everybody who interacted with that first post is more likely to interact with the second post because they interacted with you once. The algorithm is more likely to deliver that video into their news feed, you know, but it's like, it's, I guess the theme we keep coming back to is it's more about the audience than it is the speaker. At
Yeah.
least that's my thing.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of getting feedback and knowing what content's working and what's not, of course, it's all about the audience and getting those insights, whether you ask them directly or whether you're on 20 prospecting calls the last 2 weeks and you notice the same question keeps coming up over and over again, well, that's probably an indication that that might be a question you should answer, right? Like if the
Yeah.
same topics keep coming up, hey, I'm quite curious about this, or how do you do the X, Y, and Z? It's like, well, now I've heard it from 20 prospects. I'll just go answer that question. That would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, no, exactly. So, I guess I'm gonna spring this question on you. Have you ever gone too far? Have you ever made a video? I hear all the time people say, "Oh, I'd like to make a video about blah blah blah, but I don't know if I could do that." So I want to know: have you ever stepped over that line, or have you ever pushed too far where your audience is like, "This was too much"?
No, I don't think I really have. I mean, for me, like, it goes back to creating content. I think it goes back to your values too, who you are as a person and what you value along with your personality and other stuff. And for me, it's always been like, and I'm the same way, obviously, in real life, because its values run deep into your soul. But it's about being respectful. It's about lifting other people up. It's about supporting people. It's about we all can find success. We don't have to step on each other on the way up. It's about delivering something that hopefully is maybe not everyone agrees with, but it's something I believe in. I really, really believe in my soul. So for me, I've always felt good about things I put out. Now, there's been some things where I'm like, I probably shouldn't have talked about that, or it wasn't a good piece of content. There's that. But there's never something I put out there that was like, whoa, dude, you went way too far with this. Honestly, I haven't had that.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same way. I had one joke, one joke that a couple people commented on, but it wasn't a big deal. I have a fake doctor character called Dr.
Hmm.
Funkenstein, and it's just me with a lab coat, like giving
Yeah.
like questionable scientific advice about my sales course. And like I had a bit at the end where it's like you got the giant disclaimer of like side effects. And one of them was like, if you experience an erection lasting 13 hours or longer, that may be unrelated to the complete guide to selling on video, and you should consult a doctor. And a couple people were like, can you say that? And I'm like, well, I don't think the
I
LinkedIn
just
police have
did.
arrested me. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's like, oftentimes they tell me what they want to do. And I'm like, that's not really that ridiculous that what you want to do, And um, I don't
It's
know.
not.
It's like,
People overthink it. 99% of the time they're overthinking it. Oh, my audience, I don't think they'll like that humor that I want. I'm like, really? Because there's 60 and 70-year-old professional business owners and multimillionaires that enjoy my rap battles. So
yeah,
it's like, again, it's assumptions versus what is the actual reality.
yeah. You don't stop laughing at things just because your bank account
Right, right,
gets
right.
to a certain number,
Right,
And I'm like, hey,
right.
the thing I love about LinkedIn, I tell everybody is I'm like, this is the only platform for adults. This is if you go on TikTok, if you go on
True.
YouTube, you are competing with teenagers.
It's true.
You know, um, LinkedIn as an audience, they're adults. They have more education and income than the average social media user, so you can talk to them like adults. And
Mhm.
yeah, I find that it's like I don't know, maybe I'm being too harsh here. You tell me, but it's like people kind of talk to their audience like they're stupid. Like when you
Yeah.
when you're trying to deliver something to a really broad audience, you have to like dumb the message down to the point where it's barely even a message anymore. Whereas
Mm.
like on LinkedIn especially, I think like what if I had a smart person sitting in front? What if I had one intelligent person? They don't have all the education that I have. They haven't learned this particular skill, so I can't talk over their head. But let's just assume a smart person who wants to learn is here. What would my message be to them then? And I find that, and like that's an old improv trick I learned, where
Well,
just like, hey,
it's
assume the audience is smarter than you.
I mean, for me, it's not about like dumbing it down. It's about making it sure that it's clear. So, like,
Mhm.
there are some complexities and some things that, and again, you got to think about your audience, right? Is your audience brilliant at your expertise? Probably not, right?
Mhm.
Like, your audience isn't brilliant at making videos and being on camera, otherwise, they wouldn't hire you, right? They wouldn't be a customer. So,
True.
it's like finding ways to, like, how do we make this easier? How do we make this more simple? Not dumb, but just how do we simplify this? Or how do I tell a story that relates and helps them conceptualize it? Right? If people are like, why should I do video content? I'm like, well, don't you agree that building trust with your customers is a good idea? Don't you agree that getting in front of them and telling, customer success stories? Oh yeah, I believe all that. Well, video is the way to do it at scale. You see, the fundamentals haven't changed. It's just the mediums change. And they're like, oh shit. Well, when you put it like that, right? So it's that stuff versus me being like, okay, no, we're gonna make a video and you're gonna step one, hit record. It's like it's less like that stuff, and it's more like how good can you tell a story or simplify something or conceptualize something for somebody.
Yeah, I guess for me, I always go down to it's like first I ask, who is this going to? You know, I'm amazed how few content creators can answer that question. That's always the first thing. If they
Exactly.
bring me in a coach, someone will show me a video. Almost always the first question I ask is, who is this video for? If
And
you
what are they
can't answer,
getting out of it?
yeah, well, that's the next step is
Yeah.
why are you giving them the information? Okay,
Right.
here's my 5 tips for business success. Okay, is someone actually going around being like, I need 5 tips for business success today? No.
Right. Right.
Um, but like if you start it with being like, here's something that was holding me back early on in my sales career. You know, when this happens, it's a waste of time. It's how you miss quota. And here's like the 3 things I did to restructure my life that improved that.
Right.
When you start the video that way, one, I've just taken myself down a peg. And this is actually what I do oftentimes as a content creator. It's like, I'm not coming in there as like, I'm up here, I'm a genius, you're down here, you're not good. I'm like,
Right.
hey, this was a struggle that held me back. And I want to share with you like what changed in my life. Like, what did I
Hmm.
start doing differently to change this? Now I'm giving them a path. I'm showing them where they could go. But again, it's like, why am I giving you this? Oh, actually, you know what? If you're a sales leader, here's something your team wastes a lot of time doing. And I'm going to share with you like a really simple way to like navigate around this. Like I've conveyed all that in there. Who is this? Why do they want this information? What are they going to get by watching the whole video? And it's just like, can you pack that into the first couple seconds and then tell your story? You know?
Hmm. It's the name of the game, man. You have to. I mean, that's the one of the best questions you can ask is who is this for and why would they care? And oftentimes it's like, well, it's for this person and they care about this. Oh, if they don't care that I just won a new award or I'm showing up to a conference next week. But can we
Yeah.
tie in the message? And then it's like, yeah, I guess you're right. I guess what's the value they're getting from this? Oh yeah, I guess there's really not. It's just me kind of bragging about myself. It's like, okay, well, we need to tweak this a little bit
Yeah.
then.
Or no, a woman I coach, she does content. She's got a really interesting idea, like a really good premise, I think, where it's like she teaches about HubSpot and it's like she does the videos in English and in Spanish. She has 2 different videos that she releases for
It's
2
cool.
different audiences. And she did the video once that was like, hey, here's some simple HubSpot tips. And I had a little conversation with her like, why are you doing this? Why is this show here? Why are you doing this? And she explained to me that she's in this role right now. She's been consulting on HubSpot for 7 years and there's no Spanish language materials. She's never run into good Spanish language materials for
Wow.
this. And I'm like, you got to open with that. If you let the audience know, hey, I've been doing this for 7 years and this is, I'm doing this now because we need great HubSpot materials in Spanish as well as in English. That's everything in there. You've established like why you should care. You've established what they're going to get out of it. You've established like why you're unique and why it's something different. But,
Yeah.
like, we gotta let them know and it's just like a landing page on a website. I was always taught,
Right.
when someone goes to your website, they gotta know within the first 3 seconds, "Am I in the right place?" And it's the same thing with the scroll and your video.
Yeah,
Um,
dude.
yeah.
I was at a prospect's website earlier today and I had a meeting with them and I gave them some feedback because the website was like, I landed on the website and I was like, let me pretend I don't know what they do. Let me see if I can figure it out in like 30 seconds. And the website was like, we're a transformative company that's innovative, that's digital transformations, that's accompanied by a 50 years of innovation. I'm like, I read it back and I was like, dude, could anybody understand that? If I showed that to anybody around, like walking the street or at a convention, he's like, no. So it's like, getting that point across clearly and effectively right away is so important, whether it's landing page, website, whether it's your video, it's so key. It's so key.
Yeah. So here's a question I'd like to hear from you. So, assuming that the audience doesn't have to make comedic content, they don't have to go out there and twerk and do the latest dance moves or whatever. I do find it is like I was taught early on by a lot of successful content creators that's like, hey, maybe your video is 1 minute long. It's actually a collection of moments. Each like 8 to 10 seconds is kind of like its own thing. and every 10 seconds you can lose your audience, and you've got to pull them through the video. Each moment should lead to the next. And yeah, I was taught like every 10 seconds something should change. Maybe that's text on screen, maybe that's a different camera shot, maybe that's some music, maybe it's a change in emotion from the whatever it is, something's got to change. So how do you coach that? How do you get people to think about, like, yes, the hook is important, but how do you keep that message dynamic so the audience like stays through the entire video?
Yeah, I mean, I think on TikTok it's probably like every 5 seconds. I feel like,
Yeah,
but
that platform is
but
exhausting.
but yeah, I mean, I don't know if I break it down like every 5 seconds or 10 seconds. I mean, obviously you got to have the hook. And then for me it's like how can we like bullet point the key points and separate them a little bit, right? So it's like if I want to talk about the 3 reasons people fail with video on LinkedIn, I need that strong hook, and maybe that's it right there. And then I'm thinking about what are the 3 things? And maybe one of them is like the first one is like, let me help them understand why this is happening. And I use a customer example. I had a customer that was posting, they had posted 100 videos. None of them converted. When I looked at the videos, X, Y, and Z happened. And then maybe the next bullet point is a little bit more strategic, right? And then maybe the last one is a tactical type thing to finish it off. So they've got some actionable takeaway. So I'm more thinking about like, is the hook good? And then what are the supporting points? I don't necessarily like, all right, because I don't script out 99.9% of my videos. And I don't even encourage my customers to do it. But I do say have a hook and a couple key points and then let it flow naturally. If I'm going to script out, it's like an edutainment video. If I'm doing like a real live skit video or something like that, I will. But for normal videos, I think that's a great start. Hook and get some key points in there. And to your point, like, the delivery, the message, changing your emotion or your, the way you deliver it, the way you say it, like that's little stuff that you can interject that actually makes a big difference.
Yeah, I would say one thing that I recommend to everybody, and I'm sure, Alex, you got to be the same way too. Some of my most successful videos are attempt number 2 at an idea that didn't go viral the first time.
Yeah.
I have done video, and this happens with the people I coach regularly, where again, they give me a video and I'm like, okay, whatever you did at that 3-minute mark, that could be the entire video right there. You could do an entire
Yeah.
thing about that. And yeah, if ever you have an idea, if it's a text post, if it's a video post or something, sometimes it's just reordering the ideas, and I can almost always tell, if I have a video that underperforms, I can almost always look through it and figure out why.
Yeah. Same
And
here,
I'd be
man.
like, you know what? I
And I've
totally,
done,
this was a, go on.
I was just gonna say I've done skit videos where, like a recent example, last couple months on TikTok and LinkedIn, it did well too. But it was probably I had done skits very similar to that. It's the one company, how companies think content works. And I titled it like part 1, part 2, but really I had done like 10 before that. So it's like part 14. I kind of like restarted it. So I'd say 11th, 12th, 13th one, something like that. And the character, the guys in the studio is like, team, how's our content strategy coming along? And they're like, it's good. We posted videos like, let me see the script. And they did some stupid corporate thing that they shouldn't do. And the marketer's like, no, we shouldn't do that, So like on the 13th or 14th, something like that, it just popped, dude. Did a quarter million views on TikTok. It did, I think, 60 something thousand on LinkedIn, inbound leads. It was a big hit. And that was like my 13th or 14th one. Now the rest of them did pretty good, but that one popped. And the same thing on LinkedIn versus TikTok, where I would pretend I'm LinkedIn, TikTok, and then TikTok's like, what's up, LinkedIn? What's going on? And then it's like a conversation between the two, but there's a message, there's value in there too. The first one did good. So again, back to the series thing, I was like, all right, it did good enough for me to like, I need to do another one. I did another one. It did good. And then I did a third one and it like blew up. And then I did 7 more. And some of them did really well. And some of them kind of, eh. And then I moved to other series. So I think, yeah, sometimes you do go back to ideas that don't work the first time. It was just the execution of it. You could have a great idea. You could be like, Alex, I'm gonna do a skit on this. And I'm like, cool. And then I watch it. I'm like, yeah, that's not gonna work. Like it wasn't executed the right way. Just like you could have a theory, you could script for a movie, you get the wrong actors, the wrong director, the wrong producer, and it could turn out terribly, right? Where the opposite could happen if you have different talent. So yeah, for sure, you can come back to things.
Yeah, and I will say here too, maybe we'll close out by talking a little bit about, because again, I almost feel sometimes hypocritical because I tell people like, oh, you don't have to do crazy funny comedy. But then my crazy funny comedy does really well and gets me a bunch of inbounds. And so I'm like, well, I do think I need to educate people a little bit on what's going on. And like you brought up your series. If anybody hasn't seen Alex, his TikTok content, or like go check it out. It's very funny, and it gets to this idea where like I do teach comedy on LinkedIn sometimes if I'm working with somebody who wants to do comedy. And what I explain to them is like, look, the formula for comedy has always been the same. Go back and watch, Laurel and Hardy or something from like, the 1920s or whenever it was they were famous. You've got two different competing energies, right?
Mm,
And that's where a lot of it comes from. And whenever I'm working with a
mm,
solo content creator who's doing that, I'm like, you have to provide both sides of that formula now. You have to
mm,
be the straight man and the comic force. And that's what you're
mm.
doing with your LinkedIn versus TikTok. Your LinkedIn guy is the straight man. TikTok is the funny guy, and the comedy comes from bouncing those opposite energies off of each other,
That's good,
And
man. See, I don't know that technical stuff like that. So this is kind of cool to hear.
yeah, this is how I think about it. And
Hmm.
we watched my infomercial too, and it's like it starts. I'm not making fun of cold call. I mean, I'm kind of making fun of cold callers, but really, I'm making myself the butt of the joke. And you see me, nervously picking up the phone. I'm scared. You're kind of rooting for me. You're like, oh, this guy seems
Yeah,
nervous, and then I just get completely shut down. And like that's funny. And what I explain to people too with my edutainment is like if I cut away to a character and that character is really absurd and ridiculous, the more like practical my information is, the more educational I am as a narrator, the funnier that cutaway is going to be,
totally,
you
totally.
know? So sometimes it's like, if I'm exploring something like that, again, it's like I'm usually exploring some kind of tension between like, okay, in the case of LinkedIn and TikTok, it's like, okay, here's this platform that's known for being this really ridiculous party where people are twerking. And then
Hmm.
here's this one known for being this really serious one where people put self-important stuff about, their success. If I can make the serious one as serious as possible. Like the more serious that is,
Over
the
the top.
funnier it's going to be. Yeah, and
Yeah,
it's like you're just dialing up the dials in opposite directions.
exactly, dude. Exactly.
Yeah, and that's why I
Because
also often.
you're exactly right, man. Because the way I portray LinkedIn or the CEO, the buttoned up CEO, I don't think LinkedIn's that uptight where it's like suit and tie, like, hi, I'm LinkedIn. But that's like the perception magnified. It's the perception personified, right? And
Yeah,
like, so you go over the top with it to your point. I think that's great. For me, man, the unlock for me with video content in general was like, I realized early that I was like pretty good on video and I could do the skit stuff and that kind of stuff. But I always thought like, man, maybe it's just me. Like if I can get inbound leads, maybe it's my personality or it's like my thing. But the unlock for me was when I started to find success with customers. They started to win customers. Like I have a customer, I posted about this week or last week, this week, Andrew, he has a tool company. They sell tools to construction workers or construction trades, companies like that. And he's been creating videos, not necessarily skit videos or like super crazy videos, but just traditional videos that have a good message, good hook, good editing, all that stuff. And he starts winning customers and six-figure opportunities and building a brand in his industry that like no one else has. And so for me, it was like I needed to take myself out and say, can I do this for other people and other companies? And this was back in 2020 when I really got into it. But once that started happening, I started believing more in video and then finding ways to make it edutaining that was unique to the people. But it took me out of like, they have to do this or they have to do this. It was like, no, just have a good message and then find ways to deliver it. And again, find ways to pull your personality out in the video. And once it started happening for other companies and people, it was like, poof, that was the proof I needed.
yeah, I think this is important too. And if you're leading a team, if you're working with multiple content creators, I want you to think about this at home. My background, if anybody doesn't know, I did a lot of comedy, but a lot of that time I was a writer and director, which meant I was writing the shows, but I was not in them. I was up in the
Mm,
booth and I had a cast of actors, and that taught me to write for different people's skills. So my thing is if a company brings me in and they've got a goofball who's really funny, I say, okay, give me that goofball. We're just going to go get him on camera being off the cuff and fun. And we can get a lot of that. If you have somebody who's really thoughtful and empathetic, I want to get them on camera being thoughtful and empathetic you
right.
know I want to get them. It's like sometimes somebody has that really goofy manic energy. Sometimes people have that energy where they're like a mentor, or they're like someone's mother, or they're someone's grandfather or something, and they have a wisdom about them. And it's
Hmm.
like, I'm not going to tell them to go out there and do crazy comedy. I'm going to try to get that version of them that's nurturing out there. And
Yep.
it's like that's what they don't get. And it's like same thing where like I have had my clients do better than me a lot of the times. They go through the training and they start getting all these speaking opportunities and all these huge consulting paychecks, and I'm like, well, one, that's great because that their success is my success, and I want to be able to show that
Hmm.
I can be successful to other people. But it really is, you hand the tools off to somebody else, they get comfortable, they find their thing. Yeah, it just kind of takes off, and it's this whole life of their own. And usually a year or two later, everybody says the same thing. They're like, my videos look nothing like they did when they started out, you
Exactly,
know?
man.
And the audience
Yeah,
just sees
exactly.
you at the end, so they think that's where you started from. But it's like, no, you
Exactly.
you become that. You become that along the way.
Right. Yeah. What's cool is to have somebody that's been with you for the whole journey, and they've been around for the beginning, and now they're still here for now. And they're like, wow, I've seen the evolution, and you've seen them evolve. It's really cool.
Yeah, and
Really
you
cool.
know, audience, you might not know who that person is too. Alex, I'm sure you've gotten this a million times. Somebody will set a meeting with you. They'll inbound. They'll want to hire you for their services, and they'll be like, I've been watching your stuff for over a year. I shared your video with my wife yesterday. And it's like, they never click the like button. You didn't even
Dude,
know,
I'll
they
give you
weren't a first connect.
yeah, the LinkedIn lurkers, right? I've done some videos about that. But I'll give you
Yeah.
a cool example too. Is sometimes it's not even your customers that see your stuff. Like we won a couple different 5-figure projects, which end up being a 6-figure project by the time it's done this year, just on video animation projects. It wasn't the customer that saw my video. It was his wife, who had been kind of a fan of my content for about 2 years now. And I talked to her like here and there. We did one Zoom call. There was no opportunities for us. But her husband started a job. He's an entrepreneur, but he started kind of working as a fractional person for this big company. And he was talking to his wife about how the animation videos they were getting were not as good as they thought. They were being, charged a little too much, to be honest. And then she was like, you should contact Alex. I always see his content. He's awesome at video. I bet him and his team can help you. And boom, we're doing business. So it's not just like, it's all the conversations that are happening at the dinner table, behind the scenes. A lot of it's your customers. So sometimes it's people that know somebody that get you in contact, and that could change the game for you. One of
Yeah.
those.
Well, Alex, I could talk to you about this forever because I know it's changed
Dude,
both
I
of our
know.
lives. And I know the feeling of it's a very like, to be a little corny for a second there, it is such a rewarding experience when you see somebody else own their performance on camera and find the confidence, find the message, find the audience. Like, it's the greatest feeling. So
Yes.
if anybody wants to go, if you want to get out there, if you know your business needs regular video content, but you don't want to do the editing and everything yourself, please check out Alex. Go follow Alex Sheridan on LinkedIn. Check out Impacts. Alex, do you want to tell the audience one more time if they want to find you, where they should go?
Yeah, so impacts.com is great. I mean, hit me up on LinkedIn too. Starting in May 1st, I think is going to be the launch. I've got a cool course coming out that I'm putting a lot of time, energy, and effort into, which I did it early on, but I haven't been doing courses for a while now. I've got a done with you program that combines that course with me. And then, of course, for companies, we do the done for you. So picture a company coming to me, and we put together the strategy. We get you all set up. We walk your hand through the whole thing. And then we've already got trained editors that edit the videos for you. We've got content directors that can help post, schedule, write the copy, all that stuff. So it's a complete kind of one-stop shop.
Excellent. So check that out. Also, thank you again to our sponsor for today's episode, Allego. Once again, Allego simplifies your enablement tech stack, combines your LMS and your conversational intelligence and your internal content management. Use the best practices that are already winning in your team. Simplify your training. Get it in front of your team. It's the simplest way to do it. Check out Allego, especially if you're considering Gong or Chorus. Allego is probably a more comprehensive solution. And once again, this has been Chris Sells His Soul. So I'm Chris Bogue. Find me on LinkedIn. Ring my bell if you want to follow me for great content, new sketch comedy all the time. And you can check out my course at chrisbogue.io. And you can find past episodes of Chris Sells His Soul wherever you get your podcast. Thank you for joining me. And Alex, thanks again for being here.
Pleasure, brother. Pleasure.
All right.
I got to bounce to a call, dude. This
All
is
right,
fun,
later,
man.
man.
We should
Thanks
do a
for coming
collab
by.
or